Good evening. I would like to start the Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, December 16th. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and welcome to our last Board of Supervisors meeting for 2024. All right, let's establish that we have a quorum. Amy?
Supervisor Mark Hain.
Here.
Supervisor Jeannie Vogel.
Here.
Supervisor Linda Way.
Here.
Chairman Dan Wolfel.
Here.
Supervisor Trent Olson.
Here.
I believe we have a quorum. Let's move on to meet and greet. And in the front row, we have a guest from the county.
There you go.
Dick Woodwin, 4217 Heverly Road.
Hughes Huddle, 5986 Glidden Drive, District 14 Supervisor.
John Swanson, 4395 Glidden Drive.
Bill Schuster, 4095 Glidden Drive.
Gwen Gray Boys, 5343 South Lake Road.
All right. And our two videographers.
Derek Junice, Sportsville.
Laddie Chapman, Glidden Drive.
All right, welcome. Thanks for showing up this evening. Next item on our agenda is public participation. Anyone wishing to speak on a non-agenda item? Gwen? Sure, if you'd like to grab the mic.
I just wanted to say that we had our penultimate visit to the Clark Lake Dam today, and despite the ups and downs like we've never seen, we hit our 8.5 level today. The grates were clean, and the water is under the spillway, so hopefully we'll get the last little bit of the fish fingers repaired by the end of the year. Mark's hoping to do it this coming week, and I just want to thank Brian and Mark for what was a really tough year with way more than the normal amount of dam responsibility and time spent, sometimes 2-3 times a week getting down there to deal with it, and we all appreciate it. I also just wanted to say we had 640 voters who left some money in the, what do you call it, the Dropbox or whatever, a voluntary donation of $5 for launching, so that's a good use of, I mean, a lot of people are enjoying the lake, and it's nice to have it good, and I appreciate all the work.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for the compliments. I'll make sure that we pass it on to Ryan, who does the lion's share of the work for us down there.
Yes.
All right. Yes.
Was the problem because the water was so high, or what was it, or just a combination?
You name it, we had it. Too much water in a short period of time caused it to go over the spillway. Then weeds are a terrible accumulation on the grates, and so we were down there a lot trying to clear the grates, so they blocked the flow of water. And I'm also working with Thad on looking at a placement of an additional culvert, because it's my belief that the water flow is inhibited by the culvert's diameter, and that doesn't help us either in the spring. Because there's nothing obstructing it, it's clear. So I don't know where we stand on that, Thad. Topic for a future discussion. So, okay. Good. Anyone else wishing to speak? John, you seem like you had something you were just dying to tell me, and you changed your mind.
Here's a mic over here.
There you go.
I'm the president of Friends of Whitefish Dunes State Park, and we're just talking a little bit more about the Schauer Road project. And I think from a Friends perspective, we're certainly in favor of going forward with that project. We see a lot of bicyclists. There's only one route through the park if you're a bicyclist, and that's from South Cape Point up the Red Trail, and then out on the Black Trail, which jumps right out onto Schauer Road, right on the curve. And certainly from a safety standpoint, our contention is that if that was made into a bike trail, that it would certainly be much safer for our bicyclists going through the park. It certainly would free up a lot of trail space that we could use from the park standpoint for hiking trails as well. So I think from a friend standpoint, that helps with trail construction and funding at the park. We're very much in favor of turning the Schauer Road over to the county and freeing up that property for us.
Okay, thank you much. All right. Anyone else?
I thought you had heard you say non-agenda items.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about
Well,
road as well.
he was talking about probably support from the Friends, a little bit different. I'm not going into the Schauer Park at this time. Is that what you're going to? Okay, good enough. All right. Anyone else? There's only one person left. Last chance. Okay, forget it. We're going to move on. Was the agenda properly noticed?
The agenda was properly noticed.
Well, then we should probably adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda for this evening, December 16th, 2024, as noticed.
Motion from Linda.
Second.
Second from Jeannie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've adopted the agenda. All right. Approval of the minutes, Board of Supervisors meeting from November 18th. As usual, you all had a chance to look at it ahead of time.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the Monday, November 18th board meeting.
Motion by Jeannie, second by?
Second.
Second by Trent. Jumped right in there. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carried. All right. Pending business, discussion. Oh, wow. Look at this. Right away, we jumped to Schauer Road. Gotta go back to this agenda. All right. I'm not positive I actually know where I'm going to go with this. I asked Thad to join us tonight so that we have answers to any questions that might not, that perhaps were not clear or clarified at the meeting the other night. I reviewed all of the notes that I took at that meeting, and I tried to do a little bit of the old Ben Franklin balance sheets on the pluses and the minuses of going each direction. And I think that's probably what we might want to do tonight as a group, which is kind of discuss the benefits of the new road versus the old road. As you already heard from one individual talk to about the Friends. And I think there's an opportunity to break the road perhaps in the segments. Even though we own the road from WD up to Jacksonport, I think there's an opportunity to address a section of the road from WD to the parking lot, a section of the road from the parking lot, or I should say, the road that lies within Cape Point County Park, and then the final segment of the road that goes from Cape Point County Park up to Jacksonport. And I'll get into more of that as we discuss it, but I think there's an opportunity to look at that with a different perspective than how we deal with one entire road, depending on your questions and support. We need to understand a little bit better, depending on what route we take, how grant funding might be split, or how the grants might be applied if we go that route, which obviously, that could either be the foundation or DOT grants. There was also a comment made, and Thad perhaps later can elaborate on it. Ken mentioned the fact that he felt there was more funding available if the county pursued this as a county project versus a town. And I'm only assuming there's some grants out there that are eligible from a county perspective and not from a town, but you can go through that. Kind of going through my notes here. And there was a couple comments made during the meeting, and I received some after the meeting, that said that we should evaluate whether or not we should pay anything towards this project if we decide to move on it relative to the county, as our road has a lot of value, and we shouldn't give up that value and also pay to bring that road up to standards. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I only bring it to you as comments that I've received and one that you also heard from Bill Schuster at our most recent meeting. So there's other things I have on my notes here, but I don't want to occupy all the time with my stuff. So I'd like to hear from the board in terms of what your thoughts are, what you support, so we can try and move this ball forward. So I'll tell you what, I'll start with Mark, and we'll work our way down, if that's agreeable.
I don't want to start. I don't agree.
Pardon me? No, that's okay.
I want Linda to start.
If, really?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
all right, fine and dandy.
Sure.
Really, my preference would be to keep a nice winding road through a state park. And tourists and visitors would just have to adjust to go slow. But being a practical and from a state safety standpoint, that's not gonna happen. You're always gonna have the people parking on the road, problem with ambulance or emergency vehicles getting through. So, although I would like to see it kept quaint the way it is, like I said, practically, that's not gonna happen. Too much traffic, looking at the park's visitation, Cave Point, #1 destination here in Door County. So I guess the alternative would be to turn it over to the county with the straighter route, I guess, because even if you did improve the current narrow surface, I think you're still going to have a parking problem. So I guess turning it over to the county, I like the idea of their likelihood for grant success is probably better than our individual. If we can partner with them, the Community Investment Fund, I think, would be a great target because it is definitely tourism related. Or maybe, it is going through a state park. Would the DNR be interested in acquiring that roadway? The town would abandon their roadway. We would lose our road tax, our transportation funds on that, even though it is probably, I think it's what, 0.95 miles or something like that, 0.65, something like that. So, I guess I would go support the county taking it over in the new location, and then the town abandoning any interest they have in their current roadway and giving that over to the state park DNR system. Thank you.
okay. Mark, you're up.
I agree with Linda. I'd love to
What a
keep it.
shocker.
Well, I figured, I knew one part she was going to say, just from being around. I think we all would love to keep it the way it is. It's beautiful, for the bike ride, for everything else, but as Linda said, the safety is a big issue. I have a lot of questions. I feel like we're very early in this, even though it's been going on for a long time. Funding obviously is #1 in everybody's mind, right? But I was kind of surprised that nobody from Jacksonport Fire Department was here at our meeting. Do they respond? I know they respond to like water rescues there, correct?
We
So-
covered that at the meetings that we had at the county before it came
That's going to
here.
add obviously time on for them if we close off.
They go the other way.
They do? Okay.
They absolutely said that they go the other route because it's faster.
Okay.
I would think it would.
It's
So-
probably actually safer going the other route as well.
But that did come up at the earlier discussions.
Is there anything been talked about, because we obviously haven't been to all of them as a board, a name change to the southern part of that road to make sense that it's Cave Point Park Road instead of Schauer Road? And so you go on your Google, you go on your map, and it's now Schauer Road and North Schauer Road, or we can say it's Cave Point Park Road. I mean, has that been brought up at all? Is that a big issue? I know if there's residents on there and businesses and stuff, it really sucks for them, but there's nothing on that road that they need to do an address change and,
It would take Google 30 years to catch up to it, probably.
Well,
That would be the only, I mean, they still show South Cape Point Road as an access to Cape Point County
yeah,
Park.
well,
But, no, that hasn't come up, and I think it is an issue.
the other thing, I doubt the state will take care of that, the old road after it's abandoned. So it's gonna eventually turn into back in woodland, right? The road's gonna break up, and so the biking and the walking and all that's gonna go away, I would guess. That was one question I was gonna ask the other night. Are they gonna take care of that? Are we just gonna lose that? It's gonna be a route through the woods eventually and not be an actual path for anybody to be able to use, especially a bike. You know, trees are gonna grow through it, and if you have a pasture land and you go a couple years without cutting around your fences, the trees come in and they move in. You have a roadway and there's nobody driving on with vehicles, heavy vehicles, it's gonna, roots and trees and everything else are gonna grow through it. So are we gonna completely lose that for the bikers, the hikers, the walkers, cross-country skiing? You know, it's gonna turn back into woodland, in my opinion.
I thought the proposal was to mill that road.
Well, that was one of the things they had said, yeah.
Yeah, it was an option.
I think
That was one of the options,
I
yeah.
think one of the points that were brought up by two, three different people were that if they did that, and it becomes very difficult to ride a bike on it unless you're riding a fat-tired bike.
If it's not hard.
The maintenance piece wasn't really brought up in any discussion other than either mill it or not mill it, I think, right, Thad?
Yeah, the park originally thought they would like blacktop.
You know, and I would guess, what would the lifetime
The
of,
park originally thought they would like the blacktop removed to get it more back to a green state. But in my opinion, I think they should let it. Because once it's turned to gravel, like the Anapee Trail, you've got constant maintenance to it. You'll end up with some potholes, your weeds will start to take over the gravel roadway. Like Mark said, unwanteds are going to start growing up through it. So it's going to be a constant maintenance issue. Right now, they've got a 18-foot road. The edges may be a little broke from cars driving off it, but it's probably maintenance-free for, you know, a good 20 years right now. You know, until it starts to crack a lot, and then, you know, possibility of things growing through it are going to be a little better. But as of right now, the road isn't in real terrible shape. It's in pretty decent shape, and would be maintenance-free for quite a while.
okay. I would tend to think that would be the case, but any other comments that you had, Mark?
Not at this time.
Okay. Jeannie?
I don't think I have a whole lot to add to the points that were made by Linda and Mark. I agree, it'd be nice to have it be the same windy road, but for all the reasons we talked about and were talked about as far as safety and those types of things, it makes sense. And I think that as the paperwork that we had at the public hearing, option 3 seems to be a good plan. Yeah, my question is, so at what point are we going to, as a town, say, as you were talking to Mr. Chairman about the possibility of Sevastopol just gives the road to the county, and then that's our contribution, and the county takes possession and makes it according to county regulations. So, you know, being that also that the county is the one that can get more funding, you know, at what point is that decision made? You know, how far out in the future are we talking about this? And
has that discussion been had? Or is it just still like Jacksonport and Sevastopol work together and
No, the-
throw in what sort of money and, because, I mean,
The question of funding has not really been fully addressed. I'll talk more about that, but in fact, I'll come back to that. But at this point in time, it's not been fully addressed. The two components that have been brought up, three, some kind of state or federal grant,
right,
the LRIP enhanced, some kind of federal grant, which I believe the county is the only one can apply for.
right?
And then, as Linda mentioned, the Door Community Foundation.
The Community Foundation,
This
yeah.
is, if you were to look for the perfect example, this has to be it. It touches all the bases, DNR, county, state, towns, everybody and their
Right.
brother. It's a positive win-win, so I would think they'd be a major player. And
Community Investment Fund.
Community Investment Fund. And I'm going to hold on the rest for a moment.
Okay.
Trent, the Lone Ranger.
Sure. My initial concern was for the Jacksonport residents who live on Schauer Road. So I definitely thank you to everyone who came out to the meeting last week to put my mind at ease for that. Overwhelming support from the Schauer Road residents to say they're fine with looping that at the end. They don't travel through there to get to Sturgeon Bay. They'll go back to the highway. So once that was passed, then I thought that was fine to do the turnaround there and then to go with option 3. To make the safest way into Cave Point, and then, so yeah, I'm in support of giving that road to the county and having the county, correct the old way that it was done.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question. This would probably be for Mr. Ash. We briefly touched on additional parking. Is that even an option? Because either the county would have to forfeit county park property for additional parking. I'm not sure that there will ever be enough parking there, but would that ease the situation? And also turning it over to the county, I think you have a better opportunity to actually enforce no parking and no speeding, as opposed to the town trying to wrangle a deputy out there. So,
First off, at this point, there has been no discussion, well, there was minor discussion in one of the first meetings about additional parking. But since that time, there has not been any. That's with the county park system, so that would be an internal deal. And as far, and your second question, Linda, was turning it over to the county?
no, I don't have that question. If we're going to turn our current road over to the county, obviously we need to bring it up to your county standards, just like any private road being turned over to county. No, that was not my question.
Oh, yeah, the
It was-
speed and the.
Right, that the
right,
county would have a better opportunity to enforce that than at
Right,
the
that
town
by the
level.
sheriff's department would be, I don't want to say required, but would be, would have more visibility there, being on a county road system. And knowing the peak times, they could patrol that a lot more often than what you would get requesting from the town side. Yes, there could be speed limits enforced on there, posted and enforced on that road. We probably, is it going to stop all that? No. No, it's not going to. But I guess I want to just put out there that it more than likely would be patrolled and have a better, would be more monitored, being on the county system.
Thank you.
And a couple other comments, questions. Signage, I think that's gonna be a big issue because you're gonna get people going in the Schauer Road, getting out, parking and going and taking a walk down to Cave Point. We're gonna have to sign the heck out of that north end, right? Something that says no access to Cave Point, dead end. It's gotta be something.
yes, but I don't see that as our problem.
No.
Well, I mean, if
I think,
we're cutting a road off and doing all this stuff, it's obviously part of our problem because we created the problem.
well, I think, in my mind, and I'll throw out my comments out here. As we saw, with the exception of, I think, the 3 or 4 people that are here tonight, everybody else that came to that meeting was from Jacksonport. And their focus point was one thing, shut off Schauer Road so I don't have traffic going through. I have no issue with that. I would be happy to give that section of the road from Cave Point County Park north to the Jacksonport town line. I would give them a gift of that to the DNR or to Jacksonport or any combination of the above. Let them close off the road as best they can. As you may not recall, but I got involved in vacating a road with the DNR years ago. Can be very complex, but the conversation that we had with the DNR representatives at the different meetings would be as they might, after we give it to them, terminate it at Schauer Road at the north point, but that would still allow for bicycles and walkers to access the water, which is the one key ingredient that the DNR has about vacating a road. You can't eliminate that access. So the worst-case scenario is you might be eliminating that access via vehicle, meaning a four-wheel, but they would still have access via bicycle, hiking, and walking. And as far as I'm concerned, the turnaround that would happen on the north end would be the responsibility of the town of Jacksonport as it services their community 100%. It doesn't do anything for us. So I have no issue in saying to them, if you agree, that you can have the road, whether it be the state, county, or whomever, to make that happen on their behalf. I understand their issues there. I have no problem. I don't know, depending on which way we go, I don't know whether or not we would consider trying to give the county the segment of the road that exists within Cape Point County Park. Just, it's a thought as I look at the road and I break it into 3 segments, depending on where we go. It's just one of the thoughts that I had. Because it could be conceivable that we would redo the old road to our specs, depending on funding, and give the county that portion of the road within the park so they can do whatever they think is best to address their needs within the park. I am confused when we talk about funding. The county budget has $400,000 in it earmarked for Schauer Road, and yet the quotes that we have for our alternatives for them to redo the intersection, I think we're roughly right $20,000. So I don't, and that you feel free to let me know where that $380,000 delta comes in. Are you guys indirectly implying that if we don't do anything, you'll take it over anyhow? Because, I mean, that's certainly more money than any costs associated with doing the intersection itself. So,
No. What that is I have to make a 5-year plan on a CIP to go in for the county board. And what that 400,000 was is there possibly could be a $400,000 project out there. And I believe if you look in one of the columns, we have approximately 50,000 in it. So what that's saying is there's a project out there, approximately a $400,000 project. Our investment is we'll go up to the 50,000 is what that's saying in my budget.
okay.
But that's all changeable. It is not saying that if you do nothing, the county's going to take it over. That is not the fact. That is your road, and that is strictly your decision on how you want to handle your road.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask the clarification because I did not know it. From my perspective, I think the new road makes more sense. I like the old road as well. But the reality of it is that the old road is too close to the water. And even though we would have a bicycle path and a widened shoulder, there'll still be people that will ignore all of that signage and will park their car and walk over to the bluffs because it's a short distance. With the new road being placed farther away, and the only way you're going to hoof it through is through the woods or backpedal, it will be easier for them to just pay the $5 or go into the park and address it properly. So I think the new road addresses the safety concern, the parking and the emergency vehicle access better than the old road. Lots of negative comments regarding not only the scenic drive, but the speed limit. Now, it's a short path, and maybe we put a couple, or you put a couple kinks in the road so it doesn't become a speed zone, but I think it achieves some of the goals that we were concerned about. There was an individual who voiced concern that if we closed the north section of Schauer Road, that would be a problem, weather-related. I don't sense that we've ever had a time where you couldn't get a plow through there and someone couldn't get in or out. So I don't really share that greatly. I do understand that moving to a new road may reduce the ability for a future launch if and when that were ever to happen. But I believe that if the new road were put in and at some point in time in the future, something happened with respect to the launch, that the state would have to make a road intersecting that road or some other exit and build off of their own parking lot to allow that. So I hear the concern, but I don't share that concern. Jackson Port. The funding split is the biggest if. If we had some answer to the funding, I could say I could make a decision, or I would make a recommendation for a decision tonight. Whether or not we give the road, say it's our portion of the road, is our commitment to the project, because the road does have value. To Jeannie's point, I don't disagree with that. A road obviously does have value. It services the busiest park in the county. It services the second busiest state park in the county. So I don't know how to answer that one. If I knew the funding, if I knew that we were going to be getting 80 or 90% of the funds through the 3 or 4 different sources that are out there, I'd say go with the new road, let's go, and our commitment is X. But since I don't know that, I'm hedging my bet. So I could say that as a board, we could choose to do the new road, and we put a top stop on our contribution regardless of anything else. And if we get the funding, whatever that funding might be, and it exceeds our contribution, that's as far as we go. Or we reevaluate it. I don't necessarily want to reevaluate it because that only creates more problems for us, but so we might look at it with a max dollar allowance that says we'll put X on the table to support this project subject to grant funding, or we put nothing. I mean, it's kind of a decision either way. I think that covers pretty much my thoughts. I'd like to hear what you think about that.
Okay.
Yes.
So the portion, you mentioned segments. The portion that runs through the park itself is a town, through the county park portion itself is a town road. If we were to abandon the curvy existing portion, and the portion that goes through the park, I had mentioned that we need to bring it up to your standards, but if we're abandoning the majority of it, would the county just accept the portion that goes through the park without our being required to improve it?
The portion in Cave Point County Park only.
Right. In the project, the way it was presented and the numbers that were arrived from it, is leaving the portion that is in the county park as is.
As is. Sounds good.
As is. But that was not figured in any, because it does serve the park's purpose for the way it is presently.
Can we do a letter of support at this juncture and say we support one way or the other, and try to start work on funding? Or, I mean, is that, do we have
Well,
to
I don't
actually-
think there's any question about our support. I think the question that's out there is dollar commitment. And the more I kick this around, and this is me, that's why you're the board, you can tell me where to go. I'm of the position that we ought to have a max contribution, subject, that we get this, the funding has to happen, and we're not putting any more than X, Y, or Z in that pool of money. And if we get the money, I don't care if the road's 95 feet wide if we have the money, but I don't think that we should be committing a major portion of our town road budget to that project, even though there's every reason in the world to support it. I just, given the ownership, who's there, who's getting service, who's driving that, I mean, who knows, and neither Thad or I may be here, but at some point in time, there might be a $10 entrance fee to get into Cape Point County Park. That revenue will not come back to the town. We lose the gas tax, yeah, $1,000, $1,500. I mean, it'll take us 40 years to recover that. But I'm of the state of mind that we put X amount of money in the pool, and we go about trying to fund the rest, and that's our commitment. That's my take. So,
Thad's trying to,
pardon me?
Thad wants to.
Yeah, go ahead, Thad.
First off, let me explain some of that funding. May help or clarify some things. Absolutely, your town's budget is not going to support that type of road work. I don't think anybody's would. Even go through the LRIP program, the TRIP funding, you know that's $20,000 max. That's not going to do it. You would have to go to the LRIP, the TRIP money in the discretionary or the supplemental program. And I think where Ken was coming from, what the county has more is that if the players in this joint venture were Town of Sevastopol, Town of Jacksonport, State DNR, county parks, state parks, county highway, you check a lot more of the boxes that gets you that funding. And those programs, the supplemental program is like a 70-30. The state would pick up 70% of the cost. In the STP, the federal grant, the towns can certainly apply for it. That is all going to be federal monies, and you're going to involve, the feds are going to want a RFP for engineering, which you're going to have to decide who you want to engineer it, and then they're going to, it's going to be a much more detailed and in-depth, and it's, you get more of the program paid for, but you're going to have more of an investment in getting set up to do it. If you would apply for a TRIP program and the discretionary or the supplemental does not mean that you have to carry through with anything. You can decide at the time that if the funding's not right, that you're not going to accept the funding and you're just not going to do the road. So there's choices there. And in talking with the Jacksonport people the other night, I think there is support there, and I think they're looking at, the turnaround part and that portion of it. I think there's real good chances for funding through the supplemental program, and then some other individual groups who can help pitch in some funds for that. Once you go to the federal funding, you're not allowed any other funding source other than yourself. So there's a lot more restrictions to federal money, but they're going to pay more, but you're going to incur more costs. Probably 80% of the engineering has been done on the road, which to go into the supplement, the LRIP supplemental program, the majority of the work is done. Yeah, there's going to be a small fee for
On the job.
Yeah, on the job and to guarantee the completion of it. but it's not going to be ridiculous. So as far as that part is, I think that is probably the way to look at, and I think Ken was talking that he has some, like Door Community Foundation and other places, that a project that includes safety and more than one municipality, especially, and includes walkers and bikers and this type of thing, there is funding sources out there. They're not going to fund the whole program, but they'll kick into the pot. So, you know, you do not have to do the program if you apply for it. It's still your choice to back out and say, no, we just can't do it. And again, like I had said earlier, this road is your road, okay? Regardless of what was presented here or anybody else says, it's your road. The existing road, I like the existing road. It's been there as long as I have. Excuse me. We were restricted the last time when Leo was here. When we redid the road, our hands were tied. The state parks walked along as we were doing the road to make sure we were the right measurement off of, at that time, the right-of-way lines, or that road could have been made a decent width and at that time. But we were playing with a different set of rules then. For the town to upgrade that road to a town road, absolutely would be a lot safer than it is right now.
Right.
You went to a 20-foot road, you widen your curves to 21 feet, just a little bit more so buses can make these corners. Absolutely, it's a safe road. Is it going to stop the parking on the side, which hinders the walkers and the bikers? Probably not. It may some, but I think you'll still have that issue. That's not to say that you're not going to have that on a new road either, you know. If people are used to parking down there, they may park where the bikers take off and walk down the road and still walk down to the cliffs. You know, so to say that the new project is going to eliminate all that, I wouldn't want to stand here and tell you that that's going to stop that. To go to a county spec road would go to 22-foot wide road. It just allows a little more room for larger vehicles, buses, that type of thing. Larger trucks, which I don't think you have a lot in there other than a snowplow or maybe maintenance to the pit toilets in the park. As far as it being turned over to a county road, well, that would be up to the county board. But current policy is same as what your town is. If you're going to accept a private road as a town road, it has to be brought up to standards before you take it over or before you're willing to accept it. And that is the county's policy also. The road needs to be brought up to that standard before it is accepted. The process to turn it over to the county is just a couple of ordinances from each municipality stating who's going to take the road over, who's liable for the maintenance, upkeep of the road, that type of thing. All gets handled through the state makes that decision, and that's how the road gets turned over. As far as changing a name on the road, that's totally your call. I know, Mark, you brought that up. It's not that, they do it downtown Green Bay all the time after football players, like, isn't that hard to do? So,
Geez, we have 6 of them in our community. What would we do?
oh boy, I don't know. But I don't know if that helps you, any of that information. Hopefully it did. Hopefully I didn't confuse you any further. If you're not 100% sure what you want to do and the reasons for it, and if you want more answers, my suggestion would be to lean one direction, but to leave your options open and to take more input and let us try to figure out where some of these funding sources are. And maybe that helps make those decisions a lot easier. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that you can approach the Community Investment Fund, you know, with a proposed project ahead of time, sit down and talk to some of their staff there.
Correct.
So if we're going to get serious, that might be a good idea too. have a sit-down with them, see what they think.
And thank you for your comments. They were helpful. So I think the whole idea of getting all the players involved is the approach. And then maybe we can figure out what kind of contributions could be made. And then also, at that point, if we can go ahead and yes, and talk to the Community Investment Fund, and they'd want to know about all these players too. I would think that would be really positive there. And then in addition, any kind of funding that we could apply for, if in fact, for whatever reason, if this wouldn't all happen, we wouldn't have to accept that. Sounds like the right approach. Question is, again, will be how much we're willing to do as a town. Because we can't spend the majority of our budget on that road.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. The LRIP programs application process isn't until fall on the odd year, so it'll be coming up in the fall of 2025. I mean, Linda and Amy have been helping me on the ones we've done for you so far. And thank you both, by the way. So I mean, to apply for this, it wouldn't be till it has to be in before December of '25, which means the project would be like a '26 project or a '27 project. You could decide at that point. So you've got time to do more homework on, if the funding is the issue, if that's the point, I would suggest that we look at the different funding options and the players and who's willing to do what. And that would determine what type of program you wanted to go with. If you wanted to improve the existing road as a town road, or however you want to do it. At that time, once you know the players and the contribution, like you said, I think it's easier at that point then to make a final decision. And you would have time, because like I said, it's a 26, or you still would have time to get everybody to get it on their budget and to go at it probably the most logically way.
The DNR has been, they didn't say a word the other night. Are they okay with any of these options? They're okay with all of the options? Because it will require them, they're going to have to give up something for the right-of-way and all
Right.
that.
As I stated the other night, in the past, the DNR has been kind of had their thumbs on anything you want to do, putting the pressure on it. There seems to have been a change in that organization. The group that was here and their superiors have been 100% whatever we would like to do. Of course, they would like the new way, and they would like the old turn back into the parks, because they are looking at walking and biking paths to go along the water. So, we're giving a pretty good chunk of space back to them for so-called state parks. They've been 100% on board. They would like to see the new road go through, but that's not saying that, to bring the new road, the old road, up to a safer width and would not hinder them. They've been very good about it. All their studies they've done for us for free, checking for plants and animals and burial grounds and all the other things they've done. And they've been very supportive and very upfront and very easy to work with on this whole project.
Did they mention any financial contribution?
They did not.
Yes, like this.
They're gonna get a lot of our road in exchange for a little bit of theirs.
Yeah, they're at this point, Dan is correct. They're looking at taking the old road, but they're going to give us a 66-foot right-of-way to put a new road in the park.
Well, could they at least cover the milling of the old road then? I mean,
Well, we
there's,
don't necessarily-
40,000.
We don't necessarily want it milled.
You don't want to mill the old road.
The DNR has been, in the stakeholders that were here, the DNR has been involved in all of it, and as Thad mentioned, I went back to Tony Conifer, I believe is the fellow that we dealt with in 2014, that held us to the width of the road and all of that gobbledygook. But they've been on top of this. They've talked to their real estate people to try and set the stage so that we don't have any surprises. So, yeah, there's some paperwork, because anytime we deal with them, there is. But I think, as Thad said, they're in agreement. I don't think there's any issue there. They're going to give a really rotten part of the park where all the trees and rock and nobody goes, and they'll pick up a nice portion from us on both sections. So I think that would be a positive from their perspective. So I don't see any issues. I look at this, I don't disagree with what Thad has said about our options. I don't want to say are endless, because I don't like that, but we could go right to the Door County Community Foundation and go after the funds. We've talked about this many times. It's totally a great project for them. Depending on how much they funded us and how much money we wanted to throw into the pot, it's conceivable we could come back and just upgrade our road and leave it at that. And I don't want to say that's the easiest approach, but depending on the amount of money that we have to cough up with, if the foundation were to cover a major portion of it, it's a total possibility that I would back away from the new road, upgrade the current road, so it's bike lanes, wide shoulder, wider road, at less cost, and that could be something could be achieved in short term rather than 2 or 3 years out. On the flip side of that, we go after the foundation, find out how much money they're willing to commit. You know how much money you could conceivably get from LRIP. If we get within that parameter again, I certainly would support the new road and the new location. So, I don't know. I just think that we need to think of, if I hear you right, we all like to support the new road, but I think that's all tempered by how much money we have to put into the game. And I think we just need to decide, what do we think, ballpark number, not necessarily locked in stone, that we want to commit to putting in here to try and move the project forward as a partner.
So if we have, I mean, we might not be starting this till 27 possibly. We could push this out.
Could be, yeah.
We have capital improvement money we could put towards it, you know, for the next couple of years, put some funds in there.
We could.
So we're not taking our road money.
Well, it's going to be our road money,
Yeah,
but
we're
we
gonna-
would just designate,
Let
yes.
some, you know, take a portion and add some to our road for
Yeah.
a capital improvement portion of it, so we get start building some funds up for that. You know, to go to every pocket in the book we can find. I mean, not many of these road projects this size and with this detail just happen overnight, right? I mean, this is obviously all the back stuff, but not gonna happen in 2025, I don't believe. So if we have a year, 2 years of capital improvements plus funding from wherever, I mean, what are we, I'm looking at these numbers here, what numbers are we looking at? You know, 180,000, or 296,000, you know, 385,000,
Well,
Depends
that's,
what options
you know, that's, I mean,
well,
Well, if you just look at option 3 and take the total cost to bring it up to county, for the new road, county standards, ditching, or shouldering and all that, let's say 292,000. We're not gonna mill and we're not gonna use any of the millings or whatever. Plus the turnaround of 53,000, you know, quarry wash would be out of the question, so we're looking at 343,000. I don't think that's that bad.
but we're not gonna do the
That section is
turnaround.
We're not,
0.65
yeah, we would
Our
not
turnaround's not
participate.
ours.
I
in the
mean,
turnaround.
we would only participate in the
That's Jackson
turnaround
Park.
in that if we applied for a grant, and it made sense, obviously, to put everybody into the pot,
Right.
but I wouldn't anticipate our putting money towards that other than the commitment to work with them to give
Right.
the road right away and support that activity.
Not necessarily us, but over the whole
Right.
project, you know, 345,000.
Yeah, just argument's sake, just use the 400,000 as an example, the whole thing. On that LRIP program at 70/30, typically they end up with between 60/40 and 70/30. So this play devil's advocate and say 60%. So you're going to get 240,000 of that 400, okay? So that's going to leave 160,000 left. If the county's commitment is at 20 to 50,000 on that first part, that already brings that down to 110. If Jacksonport supports the end, which in my estimation is around 50, the engineers is around 70, so let's say that's 60,000. That's putting, in that scenario, that's putting your contribution at around 50,000. If, without any other funding being added to the pot, Door County Community Foundation or anything else you have on that scenario.
And that's
I don't think
exactly,
that's bad.
No, that would be.
in
your
my
opinion.
eyes, that's exactly the
Yes.
maximum amount of money that I was willing to
Yep.
put towards it,
I agree.
So how much, 50?
50.
50.
Yeah, I was thinking 50 to 75.
I would
That's
agree
what I
with
was
that.
thinking.
I could live with that.
So, all right.
That was all hypothetical, just based on that.
And
Well, and
2 years
cost-
down the road.
It costs
And if you guys
change.
reduce our snow plowing costs, we could contribute more.
We've had so far this year.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
and
Thank you, Thad,
as-
appreciate it.
As we've seen, costs change.
Yeah.
Right, they increase,
Well, my-
and more time that goes by.
I didn't say it, but in my mind, 50 grand was the number. And I would be willing to commit the 50 grand to go and pursue the various options, and depending on funding, the more funding we get, the more we move to option 3. The less funding we get, the more we move back to repairing or rebuilding our own road. I'm putting way too much faith in the Door County Foundation.
Community
But
Investment Fund.
This investment fund, I mean, there is just every category under the sun when you look at how they evaluate projects. I mean, everything is in there. There isn't a box that isn't checked. So I would find it difficult for them to give $70,000 for this instead of, whatever. So I'd like to put it into a motion so that we can move ahead and the county knows where we're going and what our thoughts are. And then chase down.
Question, do we have to put a time frame on, or are you just not to exceed, say, you would be like a not to exceed figure of
I would say not to
50,000 to
exceed.
become, but
Right.
you have to have a completion date in the, are you looking for that too, or just?
No, I don't think so.
Just funding?
Just funding. I think we would, my preference, you don't have to follow. We have a motion that says we support option 3 with the northern portion of Schauer Road being given regardless to Whitefish Bay Dunes and/or the county to transfer to Whitefish Bay Dunes so they can do the roundabout. And then we would contribute in partnership with the county and you name it, we would contribute a maximum of $50,000 towards the project, leaning towards creation of a new road, depending on funding, with the potential to move back to upgrading our town road, which would cost us
Mr. Chairman?
less. But go ahead.
Being that this was a discussion or an update for this month, could we think more on that and then put something together for next month to actually, so we have it all together
We
and,
can do that too.
and bring it back next month? There's not an urgency to do it. I mean, that's just my point.
I'm okay with it as is, that we
Okay.
recommend support for option 3, that our maximum contributions be 50,000, as our chairman, or I think our chairman stated it perfectly.
Trent, Mark?
And then are we doing option 3 minus the quarry wash
Right.
for the milling or
And the
what?
roundabout. We're talking about
But
reconstruction.
just kind of leaving it,
Right.
Presently, you can use that
You
number
can use the
presently of.
use the full $400,000, our contribution would reach 50 grand max.
yeah.
Oh, well, somebody can do a motion, we'll see where it goes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, just one more time. There is going to be a small engineering cost for staking and that type of thing. not gonna be astronomical. You're maybe at 10, 15,000, maybe.
And we've already split most of those costs with the county already.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of that has been split. There's gonna be some minor stuff too. Just keep in mind that when this is all said and done, if you're gonna make 50,000 your limit, and it comes down to it, and it's 52,500 is gonna make that.
I'm a
thing.
reasonable guy, Thad. I'm
Well,
not concerned. I'm
I
not gonna
just-
go from 50 to 100 though, okay?
No, I understand that. I just, just be
Yeah, no, I-
cautious with that.
I'm with you 100%. If it's nominal, we're with you. I just won't jump. You had one comment there, Hugh?
I just want to make sure relative to, from the collaboration, I agree with the highway commissioner about keeping it all in one big bucket and go to all the major collaborators, town of Sevastopol, town of Jacksonport, the county, the DNR, and then some of the other stakeholders that spoke about contributing. And again, I don't want to have the town shortchange the efforts that it's already put in, and make sure you put on the record the amount of funds that the town already committed to help with getting the initial engineering work done.
Right.
And so, yeah, you want to spend up to $50,000, you've already spent a chunk of change already to help do some of the preliminary engineering work. So it's not like you're waiting to contribute. You've already, shown your hand relative to being a strong partner. So make sure that you include those funds. So it's really 50,000 plus the engineering work you've already partnered with to get that done. And so I just want to make sure encourage you not to shortchange the good work that the town and the good faith effort it's put in already. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And the value of our AV and recent meeting will be included in there, Sorry, thanks, Hugh. I
We
agree.
did have that preliminary study with Cedar Corp.
Yes, that's right.
7,000.
Yep.
We did that as well.
Yep.
That's a good point.
We
We did
did.
7,000 on our own with Cedar Corp. On another, trying to understand where we were going there. So, yeah, thanks for that. I forgot about it, and yet I signed the check. Okay, with all of that in mind, and to my comment with Thad, excuse me, I'm not looking to nickel and dime them either. So who wants to make a motion with respect to this?
I think you're doing a good job, Dan. Go right ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. I'll make a motion that the town supports option number 3 is our first choice in partnership with all the various stakeholders, and we can delineate who those are, Amy? And that the northern portion of Schauer Road from Cave Point County Park to Jacksonport Town Line be turned over to the county and/or DNR so that we can vacate it to allow Jacksonport to terminate that road and to create their roundabout. That the town will pursue all the different forms of funding mentioned this evening. And at this point in time, our maximum contribution towards this project will be $50,000. It's a long motion. And should funding not reach adequate level, the town may consider pursuing option 2, improving our own existing Schauer Road, bringing it up to a better standard.
I'll
Second.
that. Oh,
All right.
Go ahead, Mark.
Motion by me. I've never done that. Motion by Dan, second by who?
Mark.
Mark. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. That I'll touch back with you. We'll do whatever need be to get this thing rolling. Okay, thank you much for coming. I know it was your
Yes, thank you,
vacation
Thanks,
day.
thank you.
We owe you a beer. Maybe 2. All right.
Just start a tab. We'll be there in a little bit.
Broadband,
Did a little longer than I thought, so let me try and figure out where I am here.
broadband, just tell me.
Oh,
and I'll
broadband
start
update.
talking.
Thank you. Jeannie?
Hi, I don't have a whole lot to say in regard to the AT&T project with us, but that they're still in the design and planning phase. We do communicate in April. At the annual meeting, there will be an update. AT&T will be here. So plan on attending the annual meeting. And then there's also going to be, there's some preliminary plans for a kickoff with, including all three towns, town of Egg Harbor, town of Sevastopol, town of Sturgeon Bay, sometime in May. So that's where we are. Oh, and the first invoice came. So we're having to pay.
And the first invoice, we are paying out of our existing funds.
Yes.
So we will not be borrowing. I did ask Amy to put together a schedule, more or less, so I know we don't have firm dates, but getting our arms around the amount of money we need in a roughly right time frame, because we are going to go borrow, and we want to make sure we're ahead of that and not get a surprise. So we'll work on that, and you'll see it at next month's meeting. Okay, thanks, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the clerk treasurer's contract renewal. This is going to be a tough one. All right, as you know, each year we do renew Amy's contract. Essentially, this is unchanged. I'm trusting Amy, I trust, except for the fact that she gave herself a raise in 2025. But we agreed to support it. So you should have all had a chance to take a look at it.
Yep.
And if you did, then the next step would be to approve said contract with her, which would be a motion.
I'll move to approve the clerk treasurer contract for this coming year, 2025, as presented in the resolution or the contract in our packet
Attachment A.
I
and
hold-
attachment.
I wholeheartedly make a second on that.
All right, motion by Linda, second by Jeannie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can speak up here, Amy. Oh, no, you're for it? Okay.
I don't get a vote.
She
Oh,
doesn't
that's
get to
fine.
vote.
All right, I don't. So I wanted to make her, give her an opportunity. All right, financial reports for the month. We have account balances, you have the budget versus actual, and the transactions to date. And the clerk maybe has a word on the treasurer's report. I should say the treasurer has a report.
Yep, the town has received two big bills this month. One was for the park restrooms from Portside, just the beginning of that. And the other was for the work AT&T has done. We have funds set aside to pay both of those bills, so that should be no problem. And the tax bills were sent out early last week, so if you haven't gotten it, depending on where you are, wait a little bit. The mail's been kind of
got
slow, but you will be getting it.
I'm not
Merry
sure,
Christmas.
not sure I'd say that, Amy.
Merry Christmas.
You mean, they'll be receiving a bill.
You'll be getting it.
They'll be getting it, okay.
I got it.
All right,
Want it or not?
all right. We need a motion to put, accept the financial reports, put them on file.
I'll make said motion.
Motion by Mark, second by
Second?
Trent. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Approvals of vouchers, bills, and claims, November 19th through December 16th of 2024. You've all signed it?
I'll make a motion to approve the voucher bills and claims for November 19th, 2024 through December 16th, 2024.
All right, motion by Jeannie, second by Trent. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Any oral committee reports that I don't know about?
I'll make it quick. Door County Tourism Zone, we meet on Thursday. At our last meeting, we sent Destination Door County and their 2025 budget back to the drawing board
Oh, boy.
to reconsider, specifically to put some more money into the Community Investment Fund. They seem to have a lot of cash on hand, so we thought that was a good use for it. And, everybody pretty much supported that, so.
Great. Now we'll really go ask for some more. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'll add my 10 cents worth. If you haven't driven by, take a look. There is a large building going up in the town park. They got the ceiling, they got the roof on, the sides on. They're moving along on it. So,
Just so everybody knows, it is not a concession stand. It's been reported many times in Sevastopol Facebook and other Sevastopol school things. There's no concession stand. That is a bathroom. Men's, women's, and a family bathroom.
And
That's it.
terrible, terrible place to dine. Okay. Hey, somehow or another, we've slipped up to the point in time where the county board report with District 14 Supervisor Mr. Zettel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A busy month this past November with basically 2 public hearings and an annual meeting taking place on the county board, a meeting scheduled on November 12th. The first was a public hearing on the Door County budget for 2025. Just quick summary, the county tax levy resulted in $32 million and some change. The resulting tax rate is $2.42 per $1,000 of equalized value. There was no public comment during the hearing where the budget was presented. What has driven basically the fact that the tax levy or tax rate change, it went down 7%, is the fact that net new construction in the county went up a little over 1.63% to $201 million. That obviously affects the equalized value, and so on a tax rate basis, it went down substantially. Just looking at net new construction for the town of Sevastopol, it's a little over 8.6 million, and so you guys had an uptick of about 0.75% versus 2023. So the overall county equalized value by which the tax rate was calculated is a little over $13.2 billion, which is an 8.9% increase. Just a little bit of caution relative to as we look into 2026. Our current budget estimates look like we might be $1.4 million in the hole, and that's because they have an estimate that the net new construction number for 2026 will be lower. So that's just something we're going to watch very closely, because obviously, from a tax tax levy perspective, we're limited by, net new construction as far as how we can increase our tax rate. And so that's something we're going to be watching very closely. So at our budget workshop this past September, there were a lot of discussions about how to potentially increase revenue. There's a lot of things we can do to monetize assets. Actually, one of the brainstorming sessions that they had with the broad group of, again, county board, county stakeholders was actually looking at, should the county charge for entering parks, and most notably one of the most traveled and popular parks, that's, Cave Point. And there's some examples in the state that was in the recent Wisconsin County Association meeting that talked about what Waukesha County has done relative to their large park system and how they've used that as a way to, fund operations, not only for the park, but raising enough funds that actually it helps, from a general revenue perspective. Again, if you look at our expenses, our biggest expense in the county, as in most large institutions, is labor, right? It's your labor, it's your benefits, that sort of thing. It's north of 35-36%. So when you are looking at a tax cut, there's really not a lot of expenses, material expenses you can cut. So you're talking labor. And, that's something that, no municipality or county or government, entity wants to face, especially with the great workers that we have. So it's just something that we're going to be watching very closely as we go into next year. The other public hearing that was conducted at the last meeting was the Door County Comprehensive and Farmland Preservation Plan 2045. This was done by the Land Use Department. Again, there was no public comment on that, and then the regular meeting was convened and recessed to the Door County Fair meeting. Basically, I just highlighted in your packet the revenue and expenses for that meeting, and noting that the fact that the county has provided around $85,000 to support the county fair, and that's down 3.5% versus 2023. In a couple previous terms prior to my joining the county board, the county basically has set up a policy they want to reduce basically underwriting the county fair and looking at marketing activities and just the mix, if you will, of, residents versus non-residents, getting more non-residents and other seasonal residents more engaged, and to drive up more revenue. They've also did some things relative to doing ticketless purchases, right to buy online, tickets online, that sort of thing. So that also helped facilitate increasing participation at the county fair. They also did a much larger increase in education programs and fair exhibits regarding school-age children that drove a huge amount of participation from the county, to the fact that they almost have to look at increasing exhibit space with the amount of participation they had. So that was very positively received as well. So there's going to be more effort going into that. There was no public comment regarding the County Fair Board meeting, so we basically reconvened in attacking the various resolutions. So one was approving the budget, accepting a grant, again, the big, what some people call a towers project, but it's a communication project that's going to be, $20 to $25 million to basically upgrade the communication systems for our emergency services. They got a grant through Senator Baldwin, and was accepting that grant. I think it's north of $3 million, which will help defray that large investment. There were also some other resolutions supporting some zoning activities within the town of Union and the town of Brussels. As far as ordinances go, we basically approved the comprehensive and farmland preservation plan ordinance, and there was a denial report. It basically came to that meeting. This was for the Liberty Grove change for HL 10 that came to the county, and that denial was approved 20-1. Our next meeting is actually tomorrow, and also in your packet, right after Thanksgiving, the fall results were presented relative to the fall well testing. So I just put a couple snippets in there. That report hasn't hit the website yet, but it should be there before the end of the year. And again, it just shows the high nitrate levels, especially on the Bayshore Drive side. They also did some very interesting diagrams, basically looking at the nitrate levels in the county over the last 5 years. Looked at the nitrate levels and then basically subtracted out Bayshore Drive results in those 5-year results, and that average number dropped, by almost a factor of 3. And if you took all the rest of the county out and you just looked at Bayshore Drive, you could just see how large Bayshore Drive is relative to its nitrate well testing levels. So they have some specific programs that was in the 2025 budget to work with UW Oshkosh to basically look at specific testing of the well water, where they could be more specific as to what the source was. So we'll have some more work on that. And as I talked about before, it'd be great to bring Greg Colthurst from the Soil and Water Department to probably give a presentation of the work that they're doing and what they're finding, and answering the questions that you or the public may have. With that, thank you for a great year, and happy holidays to everyone on the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same to
Thank
you.
you. Appreciate your making the trip every monthly meeting. It's been informative. In your packet, inspection specialists, they have their monthly recap in there for you. You also have a copy of the declining number of zoning permits. Hopefully that goes right back up. It doesn't mirror what Hugh just talked about. Moving on to correspondence, there is in there a copy of change and billing from the DNR for people that have removed their property from managed cropland, which you don't see a lot of, but has happened in the past. Also a copy of Destination Connection from Julie. Yes.
Did anyone from Destination Door County reach out to you, Amy, asking for input or comments
No
before
one.
they gave us this letter?
No.
Okay.
They do what they can. That's all I can say. Door County Unit Meeting, I just wanted to highlight on there the schedule for next year on August 21st. Put it on your calendar. We are the hosts for the WTA meeting, so please make note of that.
We started to
Yes.
think of our menu already.
And if you have, yeah, the menu, but first the presentation. So if you have any ideas as to what you would like to
Greg
see.
Goldhurst.
Or a speaker.
We already had him. We already had him.
I'm just kidding, okay?
Yeah, something that'll keep us,
Entertained for
yes,
5 minutes.
entertained
I'm sure there'll be
and
some hot
interested.
topic that'll come up after the first of the
Please
year.
do, yeah.
All right,
Let
so
me
make
know.
note of that on
Glad
your
he can play the
calendar.
piano.
All right. And then State of Wisconsin Office of the Governor proclamation, and this is, I'll just read a couple paragraphs. Whereas, while election administration is never an easy responsibility, local clerks, election official, poll workers, voter education groups, and postal service workers have faced immense and unprecedented challenges over the past few years. And so, the state of Wisconsin joins all Wisconsinites in expressing sincere gratitude and appreciation for all those who work tirelessly to protect the integrity of our electoral system, provide safe, secure, and accessible voting experience for individuals across the state and county. And this was sent to our clerk treasurer, Ms. Amy Flock, and the people that support her. So, well-deserved. Did the governor send you anything besides this?
There was no monetary.
There was no monetary
Just a thank you.
No cheese wheel, no
All right.
Nothing.
Sometimes there's
Nothing.
just no winning. Last couple things, you have the fire department report, and this is, this is my own note to myself. Mark, we ought to go back to Door County Community Foundation. You have some connections there, and find out whether or not we could apply for the concession stand funding. It might be a little bit of a stretch, maybe not, but you should have a conversation and see if we should chase that, if you would. All right? And we did get their money, so we want to thank them for that.
Yeah.
Linda, you put in, I think this is yours, Linda, the smart growth bike.
oh, just
You
for.
put that
yeah,
in
just
for reference for
information,
Mark?
Right.
Okay, he's got it. Oh, okay. We did not include the wakeboarding in there, correct, Amy?
We did not.
Okay, I've got it in mine, and it was just threw me off. Just as an FYI,
Wave surfing,
wake
wake surfing,
surfing, wakeboarding, wake boating, waking.
wake something.
Wake enhancement.
Enhanced wake voting,
Enhanced wake boating.
because you're.
Wake.
Wait a second, Mr. Chairman, we are fine with wake votes as long as. Oh, I'm sorry. The particular ordinance we're working with Jacksonport and Sevastopol to move forward with is not to ban wake boats, but to ban any boats that are operating in an enhanced wake fashion.
Okay,
Thanks.
good. The gist of this conversation was a note primarily to myself and to Mark, which is we're going to have a park committee meeting in January to take some course of action. We should have done that at the last meeting. The chairman and the assistant chairman and the chairman who sits on the committee didn't do that. So we're going to do that in January.
January 15th.
January 15th. All right. All
Yep.
right, great.
And it's going to be, we're going to invite Jacksonport, but it's not a joint meeting.
Correct. They're going to invite Jacksonport, but it is not a
I
joint meeting.
invited her last week.
Great, thank you. Okay, and the goal of that meeting will to be a recommendation prior to our town board meeting so that we can do that. Okay, so I have a couple announcements, and then Laddie asked for just a minute to show you a brief video that he did of the Christmas party we held at our town hall here. So for announcements, we have the first ad hoc ordinance committee meeting chaired by our own Trent, Tuesday, January 14th at 6 p.m. And look forward to how they're going to grab that bull by the horns. We have the Board of Supervisors meeting Monday, January 20th at 7 p.m., so that's where the enhanced wakeboarding conversation will end up. The town's financial audit is January 14th through the 16th. I know that Amy loves that to happen. And with that, Laddie, you said you have a quick slide thing you want to pop up there before Trent jumps on the opportunity to.
Oh,
adjourned.
And I have a dog.
There's no sound, it's just a minute of snapshots from the start. You can do your own sound.
So no music?
Well, we have time.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
No, just,
Dan,
just,
we heard.
That's
your-
it. Don't worry about it.
we're good.
We heard you're singing at the.
There we go.
Hey,
What a beautiful tree.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Good, thank you.
Very nice,
You have to
Larry.
remember to turn those spots off when we have that TV up there. Gets glare.
This one here?
Yeah, the one says spots. No,
No,
no.
spots.
On the panel.
Spot.
It says spots. There.
That was it.
Perfect timing. There we go.
Good job, Trent.
We wish
Nice
you a
job.
Merry
You turned right off.
You ruined the entire thing. No, it's okay. All right. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Trent, second by who? Oh,
Mark.
Mark. I never would have thought of that. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. If you're out there, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you in January.